Which neurotransmitter is most involved in cognitive functioning? What if one neurotransmitter was the key that unlocked better focus, better memory, better cognition? Scientists have discovered that one neurotransmitter in the brain helps unlock future potential for learning faster, creating better social connections. Are you using it? Could a deficiency in this neurotransmitter lead to neurological diseases and brain fog and poor mental performance? In this video, I'm going to show you what I've discovered in this magical neurotransmitter that unlocks this unique potential that you have for cognitive performance, and I'll show you the top 3 foods that you need to be eating every day to utilize it. So what is acetylcholine? Well, acetylcholine comes from a choline source, and there's a acetyl group that gets attached to it so that it can activate different parts of your brain. So if you've ever learned something new and then you're excited the next day because you actually know what to plug into your computer to access emails, or you're working with an AI agent and you realize, oh, it can write code for me. I learned that yesterday and it was so exciting. But the thing that happens is when you can learn new things, it's because you've got these networks of acetylcholine. Now, acetylcholine is very interesting because choline is everywhere. It's one of the most abundant minerals that you'll find on the planet, but unfortunately, most of us are in a deficit of it. Why are we in a deficit? Well, if you look at the food that we eat, a lot of the food isn't the same nutrient properties as the food that our grandparents ate or our great-grandparents. And in fact, we are defined, and our nutritional status is actually defined not by what our mothers ate, but by what our grandmothers ate. So you grandmothers out there, I don't want you to feel guilty. I love you, and you had lots of babies, which is great. But if you didn't eat a lot of choline when you were a kid, then the eggs that were forming inside of your ovaries and in your body, those eggs had a genetic deficit for choline. And actually we can run genetic testing, and one of the things I found in my genetic testing is that I was low in choline. My body didn't process and assimilate choline very well at all. I had the same thing. I have this gene called MTHFR, and I don't methylate very well, so I need B vitamins that are methylated. So how does this relate to acetylcholine? Well, acetylcholine, if you start recognizing where some of the imbalances are and where the threats are in your health journey, and maybe you've done genetics, or maybe you've actually tested your choline sources, or maybe you're just like, I'm tired of having brain fog, Regan, just like tell me what I need to do. Well, there's 3 things that seem to work really well for optimizing acetylcholine. The first thing that you want to do is you want to start thinking of foods that you eat on a regular basis. So notice how the foods make you feel mentally. So I look at food and nutrition and I say food and nutrition, it should equal out to being a nice energy exchange throughout the day. You don't want to have big spikes and you don't want to have dips in energy. I know it's kind of fun when you have the flush of blood sugar and you're like, you've seen kids where they're just like, they're going crazy and then they just crash and then they're throwing a fit. That's a blood sugar fluctuation. Ideally, we want your metabolism to be nice and clean so that you can eat foods and it doesn't spike your glucose much at all and for very long. You know, within 30 minutes, you'll reach your peak and then it will balance out. And so the way that you can harvest the acetylcholine is by, number 1, fix your blood sugar. And when you look at your labs, it's not just hemoglobin A1C, it's not just glucose. You want to look at C-peptide, and you want to look at your fasting insulin levels. And then the 5th marker that you want to look at is called LDH, or lactose dehydrogenase, because your body's ability to have acetylcholine and to have this neurotransmitter readily abundant is dependent on your metabolic function. And 80% of the labs that we run, we find that people have very poor metabolic functioning, which is why it's very important to not only get your labs looked at by your doctor and your medical team, but also think about having someone who's trained in functional medicine interpret your labs for you. Because step number 1 is getting your blood sugar balanced. That means in the morning, you don't want to eat a sugary breakfast. I mean, think of how good this marketing. Milk, it does a body good, right? Okay, well, does it? Well, it depends on the milk. And is it skim milk? Because I grew up in a house with skim milk and my mom followed the food pyramid and she thought she was doing great for us. But I ended up having massive energy fluctuations. And I can tell you, when my energy was clean, I could learn so fast. And when it wasn't, I felt like I belonged on the short bus, or I actually didn't think I could even pass the test ever. And so the blood sugar is critical. If you follow the food pyramid, it's like, man, we need fats to actually feed our brain. And so what we've realized is we've disassembled the thing, and you go back, you'll see that Ancel Keys was the chief scientist that said, hey, it's saturated fats that's killing our hearts and causing heart disease and our blood sugar issue. But actually with the acetylcholine, you need that blood sugar and you need fats and you need proteins. So first thing you want to do in the morning is get about 40 to 50 grams of protein. And ideally go work out, get hydrated, get your minerals going. You can have a little bit of protein, and then after you're done working out, that's when you want to have a meal. You'll rebuild your muscle, but the proteins in a lot of meat sources is where you're going to have massive acetylcholine. And then the second thing, if you have any kind of blood sugar disturbances, that's where peptides like, we've heard of Ozempic and Mounjaro. Well, these are actually natural peptides. They're called GLP-1s that exist in your brain. But what they do is they regulate the hunger response. And we love using those in a microdose, and then we'll add in these 3 foods that I'm going to share with you that make that peptide work so much better. So food number 1 is liver. Now, a lot of you, I know you're rolling your eyes. You're like, okay, Regan, you want me to do all these weird things like eat liver? Yes, it's a raw liver and you want to take a big bite out of it and blood needs to be spilling down your chin and you just want to tear it up. Okay, that's not how it is. But if you watch any National Geographic videos and you watch the lion hunt or you watch the wolf's hunt, the alpha gets the liver, and the liver is the most nutrient dense thing on the planet because it's loaded with choline. And you don't have to eat liver, you can actually take capsules. Or one of the things my father-in-law taught me is like, Regan, you're eating elk liver, because my friends will go hunting and I'm like, can I get the liver? And they're like, yeah, for sure. And these elk livers are huge. And so he's like, soak it in goat milk, and then the next day, eat it. I love goat milk, by the way. Goat yogurt, sheep yogurt, it's phenomenal. Some choline, but that's not one of the foods. But liver is. So you can take liver capsules. You can find a way to chop liver up really fine and put it in with some burger. It's fine. Chicken livers are really good too. The second food that you want to eat a lot of are eggs. And not all eggs are created equal. I mean, look at the egg yolk. I mean, go to your neighbor who has a few hens and buy some eggs from them, and then you'll look at the egg yolk and it's just like this kaleidoscope of colors. And then you taste the eggs and they taste great. And by the way, it's not eggs that's going to cause cholesterol. Sorry, Ancel Keys, like we've realized, like we've debunked the science, and the eggs are loaded with choline. Very great sources. And the third source where you're going to get lots of choline is actually from turkey. Now turkey, you don't want to eat too much of it because it can disrupt some of your omega fatty acid profiles, but because I was pretty harsh with the liver and the eggs, turkey is a very lean meat and it's something that has loaded with choline in it. So the first step in enhancing your acetylcholine is balance your blood sugar. And if you have blood sugar dysregulations, if you're like pre-diabetic or insulin resistance, get in touch with somebody who knows how to use GLP-1. So if you're using tirzepatide or semaglutide or retatrutide, make sure you have a growth hormone peptide in there so you're building muscle, or something like ACE-031, which is a myostatin inhibitor. So you'll get this follistatin increase. You don't need to do the gene therapy. We've got some peptides that can help express that gene. And then the second thing you want to do is make sure that you've got your blood sugar balanced and you're building muscle, because your muscle mass is the biggest repository for balancing blood sugar. The more muscle mass you put on, the less visceral fat, the easier it's going to be to stabilize your blood sugar. And then eat those 3 foods. Get some liver in at least once a week, get your eggs in, and then eat some nice turkey. And if you are ready to go deep and you want to really enhance your cognitive performance, then watch my next video, because I'm going to talk about some therapies that most doctors aren't talking about, and actually most clinics don't even know, but it will be the future of medicine. I'll see you there.